welcome to the Awakened Path Radio, helping to spread love and light for the highest and greatest good. I'm your host, Reverend Candace Nadine Breen, independent spiritualist minister and healing minister. For more information, including show updates, courses, workshops, events, resources, and more, visit my website at www.awakenedpathonline.com. Again, that's www.awakenedpathonline.com. Now, on to today's show. Today, I have with me Carolyn Jaymes, who is a spiritual pathway guide, award-winning entrepreneur, and best-selling author. And her latest book is A Life by Request. And she's going to talk with us today about that and some other things. So welcome to the show, Carolyn.
Thank you. How are you, Candace? Thank you so much.
Well, I'm doing great. I'm so happy to have you on the show today.
Oh, it's nice to be here.
And your book, A Life by Request, a walk-in soul's journey from earth to heaven and back again, a true story about love, life, and the other side. So tell us, what made you decide to write this book and share your experiences with everyone and the whole world? It's not an easy thing. Pretty personal. So what made you decide to just be all out there?
I will tell you, my dear, I went kicking and screaming. This thing, if you will, this situation came upon me in, 2011, when I went to see a psychic medium. I didn't know anything about it, was really clueless, hadn't been to anyone of that sort probably in 20 years. And the first thing she said to me when I sat down in front of her is, "Do you know what a walk-in is?" Well, I said, "Sorry, I don't know." No clue, but keep going. And what transpired from that was the man of the love of my life, if you will, who I dated many years ago, died in 1995 because of botched surgery, if you will. And when I went to see the medium, his name is Jay, he was there waiting to talk to me. And ultimately, he asked for my permission to come back and switch places with my husband and use his body, move his soul into his body. So that's how it all started. To answer your question specifically, so 5-6 years went by, and my spiritual awakening happened, and I kept hearing, "Okay, you've got to write this book. You have to get this out there. This does happen. People need to know this." I'm like, nah, we're good. It really doesn't have to. So we had this dialogue for a little while. And because I knew the vulnerability of it all, but I don't know what happened. Literally one day I said, "Okay, I'm going to do it." And I sat down at the computer, and it just flowed out of me in 2 months, just flowed out of me.
In 2 months? Wow.
2 months. Well, yeah, then the next 8 months was editing, but
hey.
But that's really how it started. And as I say, going kicking and screaming was the hard part, but I really get it. I really get it that it did need to get out there, just in the reaction and responses people have had to it. When I was afraid of I didn't want to be vulnerable.
Right.
In being vulnerable, so it touched people, it touched their hearts, it sparked something, which is really the whole point. So I got over myself, and here we are.
There you go. Now you said that people responded. Like, has anyone come up to you and said, "I've experienced the same thing, a walk-in"? Has anyone ever?
Oh, several. It happens all the time. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's,
yeah. And that, there's social media and things like that. Actually, I get messages and emails all the time. I got 2 last night. One woman, actually a gentleman, is a walk-in soul who was here during World War II, and he just wants to talk and tell me the story about it. Just like for people to be able to talk about this out loud and not be judged, I think is kind of why the book had to be written.
Mm-hmm. And, honestly, I've been in this spiritual realm, whatever you want to call it, for a long time. And this was the first time I've heard walk-in. When I read your book, and it was a marvelous book, by the way. And
thank you.
It is. It's the first time I've heard of a walk-in. And then, I did a little research and to see, how many other people have been through this. And it's amazing. There's this whole world out there of people who have experienced this.
Yes.
And this book, it helps start that conversation, to people who don't have to cover it up anymore, who are just coming out and say, hey, me too.
Yeah. Oh, good point. Yes, exactly.
And that's a great thing. Now people can add something else to their vocabulary. Walk-in.
Right.
That's
or
awesome.
Just be able to talk about it. I did when this happened, just like you. It's the first time you heard it, same as me. Although you've been on the spiritual path a lot longer. God bless you for that. But the part of it I started to research it. There was Ruth Montgomery wrote a book in the 70s about it called Strangers Among Us. That was the beginning.
Oh, Strangers Among Us.
A couple of people from there, Dolores Cannon wrote a little bit about it, but it was always just like a little excerpt in a chapter about something else. Yeah. And so it was really hard to find. It was just hard to find. But luckily through mediumship and talking with spirit guides and the angels and everyone that's watching over this, we learned so much about kind of the workings of it, which is, I'm so grateful to know all of this. So I think this is the other reason people are, they want to, so is this how this happened and what happened here? And
exactly.
That part's wonderful.
Man, that's awesome. Now when you came out with this book and shared your story and, put not just you out there, but your family and friends as well. And I mean, how did they react, when you published the book, not just when you were writing it, but when it was out there for the world to see? How did they react, your family?
It's funny. I have 3 boys. The oldest is 28. The youngest is 14. Honestly, they just think mother is a little odd. They think I'm living this little dream world, which is fine. I think only one of them had read it. The 14-year-old, he's all about himself. And of course,
it's that age, so.
That's right where he should be.
Maybe when he gets older.
Yeah, perhaps. Exactly, perhaps. Yeah. So it's fine. Carolyn Jaymes is, my last name is a pen name specifically, not to protect, but I want my kids to just live their life and
right.
questioned on any of it. But no, they're fine. It wasn't, I was honestly, Candace, expecting, I don't know what, all kinds of flack, and none of it. It's all fine. It's all fine.
That is fantastic, because you don't usually hear that everyone's okay with.
Yeah.
And your husband, so he was sort of, he's not who he was, so now he's Jay. And was he okay with it too?
Oh boy, that's an interesting part. I'm writing the second book now. The first book ends at a certain point, and now it's all of those pieces actually, because what's happened there is, so this was literally a shift of 2 souls, and it was permission based, and there was negotiating going on, and the soul of my husband, Tom, that was in the body, had to give permission for Jay to enter the body and Tom to go back to spirit. So that was fine. And that was an 18-month process to go through those negotiations. So when the actual physical or spiritual transfer, I should say, happened, now Jay's soul was in the body, but there was so much cellular memory that had to be overlaid with new memories. And the knee-jerk reactions that we have, that we learn about our entire lives, they have to dissipate or become rewired, if you will. So he's about 90% awake and aware to this. But to answer your specific question, what happened there, he read the book. And I was kind of afraid for him to read it, but I handed it to him with a big bow on it and a love note. And I said, I think this is going to rock your world, but
Oh, wow.
I don't want to hold anything from you. So
Right.
here it is. So anyway, he put it on his desk and it sat there and I'm watching it like a hawk. Come to find out later, because I can speak to Jay's higher self. Through mediumship. So in talking to his higher self, he's like, I got you, kid, because I read the one that was on your desk and didn't touch the one you gave me.
Oh, wow.
So he's just very funny. He's great personality. But so he did read it, and through mediumship, he did tell me I wasn't upset, I wasn't mad, and I knew on a level deep down that it was all true. But he has to cognitively has to embrace it, and he's getting there.
It's good though. That's fantastic. So we touched upon some of the process involved in walk-ins, but for our listeners who have never heard of this term before, do you think you can elaborate on like the steps involved, how someone would do a walk-in, all of that, just for our listeners here?
Yeah. Well, there's a few pieces to it. Let's start off by saying I think there are many walk-ins that don't know that they're walk-ins. Now, there's the situation that this has happened with Jay is special because it's different from the way it normally happens. The way it normally happens is if someone has a near-death experience or they have a trauma to their body, they can, or they're in a coma, something like that. Very often, if you find that a friend or a loved one comes back, they wake up, if you will, and are doing things completely differently. They don't like the same things. They become alienated from their family. All kinds of things happen. Very often, that's a walk-in.
Oh.
So a walk-in starts on the spirit level where someone here, so we have outs, if you will, as you know all this, to be able to leave the earth if we just can't take it too much. And often that's someone here on earth saying, okay, I'm done. Take me home. I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
So then a spirit from the other side will say, okay, well, here's a viable body. I'll take over that body so the soul in the body can come back to spirit, and I'll complete the karma that they needed to complete, and then get on with my own life. So there are souls on the other side that are looking for these vehicles, and the vehicles here are saying, let me go home. That's usually how it works. So if you come across someone that had a near-death experience and says, I really feel so differently, and they change their hair and they change their name and they do all these things, that very well could be a walk-in. But the way it happened in this particular situation was that Jay was on the other side. I was married to Tom and very unhappy. And Jay was on the other side watching all of this. And as he says, I was beside myself, just knowing that this wasn't the life you planned. This was not your soul contract. And I died, and because I died, you didn't live out what you were supposed to live. So he was upset about that. So he started asking questions. He said, I'm just going to find out, And he said, I talked to someone and said, well, she'd be much happier if I was there. And the soul said, well, why don't you try? And so he did. And then 2 years later, here he is. So because it happened that way, that's, I think, why we've been privy to all of the background of it, all of the pieces and how it worked. But physically, so that's our situation, and the other situation is how it typically happens. But literally, it's a switch, if you will, of the silver cord in a body, or golden cord, or whatever it is you want to talk to, our umbilical cord to the other side. It's literally switched, and then the process happens where, I don't even know how to put it, like overlaying the new soul into the old one,
right?
Which can be difficult. But if there is a trauma, if there is a near-death experience, typically that clears out all of that, and they can start fresh.
Mm. No, it doesn't happen very, the soul doesn't switch just like, at the snap of a finger.
Oh, no.
It takes some time, correct? Like
it does. So, as I said, when I went to see the medium, Jay had to ask the mediumship if I was okay. Did I want him to come back? And once I gave my permission happily, then went to Tom's soul on the other side and asked Tom's permission. Mm-hmm. And Tom was miserable and he was ready to go back. So he said, sure, I'll do it. So that was the part that I started. Meanwhile, before that, he had gotten permission to do this. Now, the next 18 months was a negotiation of what Tom had in his life and what Jay would do for his mother and, things along those lines. So he's 90-something% through it right now, as he tells me.
Wow.
Tom is not giving up. He's not giving up 100%. And it's a hard 8%. This is what he says.
Well, that's hard too, especially if someone's giving a battle before they leave.
Oh yeah, that's a story for another day, dear. But yeah, there were battles.
So now that let's see. Now that you've become a best-selling author, how does it feel? Do you have any fears about or regrets as to where you're going with your book and your other book that's coming out?
Oh my God, no, I'm humbled by it. I'll tell you,
that's fantastic.
Those words, just best-selling author. Okay, so that works for marketing, but you know what? I'm still the lady next door, Candace. That's still who I am. Nothing has changed there, and I'm really humbled by it. Yeah. Sometimes I just what do we do next? But at the same time, I'm driven to keep going because I get it. It's supposed to happen. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. So either I can fight it or I can embrace it. So luckily for my psyche, I have embraced it.
That's fantastic. And, your spiritual path has played a role in your life as a whole. And has it, how has it played a role when you were writing this book and your path, your personal path? Mm. How has your spirituality and your beliefs played a role in all of this?
Well, I think it was fast forwarded because of this, certainly. Mm-hmm. Now, I've always known I was a little different. Now, I'm not the one who saw dead people as a kid. That was not who I was. Mm-hmm. But I was always empathic, and I always understood people and not what they were thinking, but where they were coming from. And I just got it. I felt it in my body, and I never knew what it was. And I was raised by a nice little Episcopal family, so there was no talking about that kind of thing. But then I've always been interested in it, but was just, turning my little life I thought I was supposed to be living. And when this all happened, it just completely opened up spirituality, and now it's catapulting, and I'm so happy it has happened.
Now, not to spoil the book, because we've talked about it a lot. I just have to ask, has anyone besides you noticed a change in your husband after the walk-in?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You have to consider, okay, Tom in the body was an accountant. A good boy from the right middle class neighborhood, which you can relate to.
Yes.
And so that was him, buttoned up, type A, kind of an asshole, if you will.
Yeah.
Jay was an actor and a singer and very creative and loving, and he was a nice Jewish boy. He was the opposite of what my husband was, and immediately, even his family was like, what happened to Tom? He's happy. What's going on with him? And it started the whole process. And even from little things that he did that he that Jay would do, and his handwriting changed, and the children are happier and trust him, and their relationships are so much stronger, and they're like, that's awesome. What happened?
Wow.
Lots of it.
Yeah. And they don't really, they don't really understand the whole walk-in. That's what happened.
Well, my oldest son, I've talked to him a little bit about it. He's trepidatious, which is fine. And I said, read the book if you want. He picked it up. I don't think he got very far. You've got to think about it. This is their father.
Yes.
So, yeah, and I'm more than open to talk about it, but I've left the door open for whenever they're ready.
Hmm. Well, reading the book, I went through so many emotions.
Did you really? That's cool.
I mean, I can understand why, your son might not want to go through it, because there's sometimes I got so upset and I put down the book and I said, all right, let me just wait a second. I'll go back to it. And, I've gone through a lot of emotions, because it is your story, and it is a beautiful story, and it has, ups and downs and all sorts of things in it. So, it's great.
It's open. It's authentic. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, very authentic. Very authentic. I love it. So now to change gears a little bit, you have your latest project is something you call the Community of Spiritual Practitioners. So what is that about?
Well, it's Holistic Campus. And I'm putting it together now. It's funny because I had this idea, I don't know, 2 years ago maybe, and I started to put together all the pieces of it, of bringing together spiritual practitioners in one place, and it just wasn't coming together. It just, when it just doesn't flow.
Yep.
So I said, okay, we're just going to leave that, and then I wrote the book and went through that whole process. While I was going through the whole process of writing the book and during my own spiritual awakening, I was told a few times I was going to be supporting people with gifts such as you, that the gift that you have. And in meeting so many people, I realized many of them, unfortunately, don't think like business people or marketing, they're really in the spiritual path, but the rest of putting it together was difficult. So I let that sit for a while, and then the book did what it did, and off it goes. And Candace, I think I woke up at 2:00 in the morning and said, oh God, I get it now. I get it.
Oh, wow.
And it was, okay, now it is time. So by talking with different spiritual practitioners, the ones I'm talking to put in this little Holistic Campus group is not just everyone, it's those that are truly authentic and gifted and connected. And because I think spiritual awakening is happening everywhere, and people are bumping up against spirituality who don't understand it and want to. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I know there's something out there. I'm not sure what it is. So I think I'll go to my local psychic, which might not be exactly the best thing to do. No. So I thought, okay, there's got to be a way to vet all of these practitioners that are like, they're in it. This is their lives.
Right.
And put together all these different modalities, and the modalities all have different specialties to be able to heal the whole soul, the whole body. Mm-hmm. So that's where we are. So I put it out there. I think it was only 3 weeks ago I put it out there, and I've interviewed at least 80 people, and there are 40 on board right now.
Oh my.
I know. It's just, okay. So all that. So yes, the book was wonderful, but I do believe the book was to bring me here, and this with Holistic Campus is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Mm. And that's fantastic. I mean, you're so motivated to do this. I admire your motivation.
I don't know. It's guided, man. I'm just going where they tell me to go, doing what they tell me to do.
Fantastic. So when do you think and I'm not trying to spoil anything, but you're working on the sequel of your book. When do you think, it'll be out?
Wow. I would say probably the end of next year. Wow. I love the writing process. I absolutely love it. And I need complete quiet. And that's how I have to do it. I put my music on, nice, and I start to write. So I think it was very difficult just from a standpoint. I've never written a book before, the first one. So, you're kind of going through the steps, and now I have a feel for it.
Mm-hmm.
And because it is it's a true story, it just flows really easily. Right. But I would say probably the end of next year, I'm going to launch Holistic Campus in January on the 8th. And then once I do that, I'm going to go back to the book.
That's fantastic. Now, how, okay. So, I forgot what I was doing.
Sorry. I'm throwing a lot of you. I apologize.
That's all right. So, your Holistic Campus here. So, you said you're going to launch it. So, it's going to be available to the public? I mean, how is the?
Yeah. Well, it is. It's a website. There are people from all over the world that will be practicing on it, and it's so. I talked to somebody from Trinidad yesterday, and we went through the whole process of how that would all work. So, what they do, they'll be able to do online as well as in person.
That's great.
So by coupling or melding all of these people together, the practitioners will have different levels that they work at. Some will work at people in the very beginning, straight up through instructors of instructors. Depending on what somebody needs, there's a group there. And then that group is comfortable enough, because everyone's been vetted, to refer them to someone else, a specialty that someone might need.
So that's very nice. People can access these resources in terms of these practitioners right from their own home.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
So that's good. The world is moving online with a lot of things. So
I know, and we have to pay attention.
Yes, we do. We can't just turn a blind eye to it.
No. The other thing is, when I used to think about mediums, I would think about a little back room with a crystal ball, and I'm really trying to get everybody's thought out of that.
Yeah, I mean it's so sad that some of the stereotypes that are out there and that turn people against all of these spiritual resources.
Right. And they're so important.
Yeah.
But it's like, once you know it, you can't unknow it. There's no going back.
Exactly. Yes, you can't unknow it, and you can't unsee it. So.
Right. Exactly.
So So now, do you have any other exciting news or any upcoming events to share with our listeners?
Oh no, those are the two biggies. Those are the Holistic Campus and writing the book. I've been doing book signings at Barnes and Noble and whatnot, and those I've got one on Saturday in Salem, New Hampshire, and then I'm taking time off until January and starting that up again. But we'll be putting together seminars and webinars and retreats and whatnot that we'll invite everybody to when it's time next year.
That is awesome. I can't wait to see how awesome that this Holistic Campus is going to be.
It's going to be great. It's going to be whatever it is supposed to be. Someone asked me the other day, people are coming at you a mile a minute. Are you going to cut it off? And I said, I'm going to go until it's not time to go anymore. I'm going to just let it flow. I can't control it at all, and I don't think I should. I don't think that's my place.
No, that's very good. That's very good. So, if people want to find out about your book, your events, and the Holistic Campus, how could they do that?
Well, alifebyrequest.com is a lot about the book. There are reviews on there and comments and a little bit of background, and you can purchase it right there. You can also purchase it on Amazon, and that's alifebyrequest.com. And then the Holistic Campus is holisticcampus.com, but that won't be going until January 8th.
Okay. Well, we'll look out for that.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure having you on the show today, Carolyn.
Thank you, Candace. I appreciate you so much.
Oh, I appreciate you too. Have an awesome day, and thanks again.
Thanks, dear. Take care.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Well, everyone, thank you. Well, everyone, that's all the time we have for today. As always, you can visit www.awakenedpathonline.com for show updates, courses, workshops, events, resources, and more. I'm Reverend Candace Nadine Breen, and thank you for listening to Awakened Path Radio. Namaste, and blessed be.